So during when we were sitting with them in our safe spaces, they were able to start sharing some of the ordeal experiences that they are experiencing at the household setup. So that was the time that from the evaluation, we realized that these cases needs to be attended on, and they're also sharing that they were not comfortable sharing based on the experiences. So we decided that through ActionAid, if we can have an innovative mobile technology whereby they can report such cases. So when I'm talking about 21094, it's something that you don't need a data or even a unit for you to report. Once you have a phone, whether it's Mulika Mwizi, you can still do what? You can still send the word help. And then we also encourage them to register.
It's free service?
It's free service.
Okay.
So we are also encouraging them to register, because from the 21094, they're able to receive bulk SMS. Like right now, we are in 16 days of activism. They're able to get information regarding SGBV prevention and response even during election time. So it is reporting. You can report. At the same time, you can also receive
information.
You can get information based on what is happening. So we decided.
What age group are we talking about?
Age group.
Yes.
Provided you've experienced, there is no age limit.
But you were driven by the information that you're getting from
the previous program. Yes.
And this is with interaction with young girls in the community.
Yes.
I assume that these were adolescents.
Adolescents, girls. It was from the age of 15 to 25.
Do they have access to mobile phones?
Some have. Some have. Yeah, some have.
Okay.
Because we realize, when it comes to reporting cases of sexual and gender, not from the experiences, they were using police stations to report. But we realized that the environment was not conducive.
Okay.
Because
when you say the environment was not conducive, what do you mean?
When I say environment is not conducive, most of these police officers were causing more damage to the survivors. And again, when you look at most of the police...
How are they causing more damage?
Okay, what they were doing, instead of supporting the survivor, they were asking intimidation questions. Like, for instance, if the case happened maybe at night, they'll be asking like, what were you doing at that particular time of the night? You get it? So, we don't want to justify the action. What we need to do is to support the survivor.
Okay.
Because even this person was working at night, that one does not justify that you're supposed to.
Does this not point then to a need for the police to be trained in such matters? Because they seem to have a uniform way of dealing with people. Irrespective of what your problem is, they begin by taking the view that it is your problem. So now explain why you brought this problem upon yourself.
So what we normally do, we are not working in silos. We are using, we are working with everyone, working around access to justice. So for the police officers, we are bringing them on board, and we are actually training them on SDBV prevention and response. And earlier from my conversation, I shared that these police officers, one of the challenges that we are facing with police officers is the transfer. You train them, then after some time, they're being done what? There is that transfer of police officers. So you find that is a challenge when it comes now to access to justice for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. And one of our recommendations was, if standard operating procedures for GBV prevention and response can be introduced in the curriculum for police officers training, so that when they are in their training, they are able to undergo SGBV prevention and response. And then once they've been, now they are assigned, already when they come now to the community level, they already have the information. So our role as CSOs, what we'll be doing is like a refresher course, because things changes with time.
Okay.
I want to go back to this, sorry, Ndu, before you come in, to the issue of use of technology, because it's good, it's innovative. So when you say, let's come up with this platform, 21094, send the word help, and we will then react and help you through it. Number one, so if this is an adolescent and they don't have access to a phone, then what? If this is somebody who has access to a phone, but it's a shared phone, then what? Did you get those kind of concerns from the community that, yes, I'd like to report, but then the phone I share with other people, and if I send help, everybody will know help 21094, where will go somebody, and then the information that I'm getting back. Number two, how do you get to know the person who was actually called out for help? Because people live in a household of people.
So when I'm talking about 21094, anybody can access it. It's something that we normally popularize in the community where we are working, so that we tell them, first of all, we tell them about the women's right. They need to know what are some of the women's rights, because majority of people do not know, they are not aware about the women's rights that are there. Then after that, we are also sharing about our 21094, whereby how it works. And basically, you can even report on behalf of someone if this person does not have a phone. So what normally happens, we also experience some cases whereby they report, but they don't have a phone. They use somebody else's phone. And when you call back, either the mobile phone is switched off, or you call, somebody will be saying that I didn't use that now. It's not me.
Yeah.
So what we normally do, we give them time. We give them time. So if you call, you realize that the number is not going through, you can even take like 3 days and then you call back. And then we also have working, when we're doing our sensitization, we have our offices, our satellite offices within Mkuru informal sector. We have 2 offices, one in Mkuru kwa Jenga, the other one is in Mkuru kwa Ruben. So we can even have walk-in clients. So if you don't have a phone, you can walk in and then we can support you. You get my point? So
Okay.
we use sensitization in that anybody can report, whether a man. Our priority is women and girls. But that does not mean that if women are also violated, we are not supporting. They also have...
if men are not, if men are being violated.
Yes, if men are being violated, they can also report. Actually, in our Survivors Network group, whereby we bring all, like this year, we have 187 survivors that have reported through our system. Now, the ones that now were either it was a domestic violence, it was rape, defilement, or attempt defilement. So right now we have 187 survivors, whereby we've trained them on economic empowerment. There are others who wants to go back to school, and we've liaised now with the TVET institution within Mkuru informal sector, whereby come next year about 18 are now going to do other short courses, and then the rest we've trained them on economic empowerment, and we are going to give them a seed capital this month. Yes.
Okay.
So it is something that we are not working in silos, and also we are popularizing. We have community forums whereby we call all the stakeholders, even the border guys. We have male champions that are also supporting us in GBV prevention and response. So we bring them on board. We even have, sometimes we also have, it's called a walk within the community, whereby we distribute the flyers. We talk even to people at the pool stations. We go to border sheds. We talk to them about GBV prevention and response. So we are bringing everyone on board. But our main priority is women and girls. But that one does not mean that if women have been violated, they cannot use our system and we cannot support them. Yeah.
So for you, Majani, as you see, obviously problem brought and said, look, it needs support, whether that support comes in terms of financial aid, structures for advocacy and learning, whatever it is. So supporting groups like this. Have you seen that there has been an improvement in the situation? So when we say an improvement in the situation, obviously then we're saying, number one, lesser cases of gender-based reported, maybe lesser cases, or then the victims who then have, those who've been victims of gender-based violence, then having been gone through a healing process and then, gotten on their feet. Have you seen that as a result of the support, then we see an improved situation, or are we just where we are dealing with the same numbers?
I think there has been great improvement, especially when it comes to people reporting. Like, people are not silent when it comes to them experiencing gender-based violence. The SMS platform, like, every now and then you'll see a lot of traffic, people sending in their call for help. And I think there's also some increased awareness about GBV because of the reporting. And I would say maybe the challenge is more on the side, like Winnie mentioned, when it comes to the partnership that we have with the authorities or duty bearers like the government. When you report the case, for example, the police, you find they are not in that position to handle the GBV cases. Most of them look at it just like any other case. So they'll just interrogate someone just like it's a criminal case. So the thing that maybe needs to really improved is how our police officers are recruited and also trained. And if they cannot be taken, all of them for example, in issues to do with handling GBV, there is need to have specialized police officers or have a gender desk at the police station with someone who is very well conversant with how to deal with GBV cases.
Maybe if I can add what Majani is saying, for instance, when we are doing police training, when you are talking about gender issues, normally the way people perceive it, it's women issues, not knowing that it cut across. So when you invite police officers even for our training, you will find that our participants, all of them are female.
So they send the female officers.
They send the female officers, go for that training. So we decided now to change our model, whereby now instead of taking trainings now maybe to a hotel, now we do it at the police station, so that we ensure that everyone is included. Because when they look at it that it is a GBV, that's a women issue. It's not supposed to be like that. Again, when you are working on GBV, you can't you are dealing just like in our case, we are dealing with women and girls, but that does not mean that we are not incorporating men in our intervention. Then another thing we can say about this system, it has really helped because women are now reporting the cases on a daily. And I wanted you people just to try. You just register. You just send the word help, and then it will give you the options. Where are you reporting from? What kind of cases are you reporting? And then from the system, we are also getting other support apart from SGBV. Like during when there was demolition in Mkuru kwa Jenga, we realized that there were a lot of cases that were being reported, especially people wanted help, financial support. There are even men who are using our system just to report if there is scholarship that we can provide. But again, if it's outside our jurisdiction, what we do, we refer them. Because we already know some of the referral mechanism within our area of implementation. So we are able to refer appropriately. So it is a system that is working even for our survivors. There are women who came, they could not even express themselves. But through our counselor using other techniques, because she introduced sports activities, so they are able to speak about it. Actually, you'll realize that even apart from, you'll find that maybe the mother reported a case of defilement that happens to a child. Then after the woman has attended our session, you realize that even the woman is undergoing domestic violence, which was not reported. So you find when they come for our counseling session, it is a safe space whereby they open up. They are able to mingle. We even we bring the survivors that have healed, the champions. So they are able to share their story. I went through domestic violence. I made that decision because number one, it is not easy to make that decision. And especially when the perpetrator is an intimate partner. There is that, you want to leave? I don't want to leave. Personally, I'm also a survivor of GBV. You see? So the time that I was undergoing domestic violence, it was not easy for me to come out. Because I was like, now, how will the society perceive me? And with the Luo culture, you cannot leave your husband. You have to stay there. So there was a time that it took me 1 year.
Ndo is shocked.
You're shocked. Those are cultural dynamics that women face.
Ask her why she's shocked.
So it took me 1 year to leave. And again, now, the time that I was leaving, it was very painful because we fought. And that is the time that I realized I have anger issues. You get it? I had anger issues. So I started doing self-evaluation. What if I stab this man? What? When I stab this man, definitely, because you are defending yourself. You get it? Because the man he overpowered me. He overpowered me. So I was like, if I had something, I could have even stabbed him. So that is the time that I made decision. And another thing, I didn't want to be used as a case study. You are the person who's supposed to mentor other. Then you go for a session, you have a swollen face. You get it? Now it will be like, Winfred is the one that is mentoring us. Then she's the same person who is experiencing sexual and gender-based violence. Yeah. So what I decided, I had to make that decision. It was not easy, but you have to make it. So, when you share some of these things, and that's why you find, I have a problem with men. They do not share. They are being battered by their wives, whichever they think, they don't share. And when you don't share, definitely you are also being affected, even in terms of your productivity. So we need to speak up. We need to share some of these things. However much the society will perceive you, you need to speak out.
Because you've brought in a new angle, which we've discussed this before, right? It's gender-based violence, which is including physical, sexual, emotional, and all.
Yes.
How do you deal with those other aspects of emotional abuse? And let me just throw it out here. probably a victim of physical violence is a perpetrator of emotional violence.
Let me laugh.
It rings a bell, doesn't it?
It rings a bell. Okay, so what happens when let me not talk about the survivors, but let me talk of the people who use our system. We deal with that case that has been reported. Because we believe, like I've said, we are client-centered. So we will deal with that particular issue that has been presented. And we ensure that our survivor become part of the survivors network group. So once the counselor sits down with the survivor, she'll be able to pick up the issues that needs to be discussed. So from there, we even have a session whereby these survivors, they bring their intimate partner. And especially when it is a domestic thing. Because domestic, it's very difficult to handle. You will talk to the survivor, the perpetrator will be apprehended. The moment this person is in the cell, atakwambia, please tafadhali naomba tu mwache tu cause yenda analipa nyumba. So sometimes it becomes a very challenging to handle domestic cases. It is a challenge.
Winnie, who are the partners you have? You mentioned you have people you work with in collaboration. Who are these? Rather, what do they do?
Okay, we have MSF. MSF normally supports us in terms of medical aspects.
Okay.
Then we have SHOFCO. SHOFCO supports us when it comes to safe house.
Okay.
Whereby we rescue the survivor because we realize that maybe that environment is very hostile. So we need to rescue the survivor into a safe space.
Okay.
So we have SHOFCO who normally support us. Then we also have Kenya Red Cross. Kenya Red Cross also help us in terms of, MSF help us even in terms of transport. We also provide transport, but also MSF, especially when it's at night and the survivor needs to be taken to the hospital. They have their ambulance on standby, whereby the survivor can now be moved from that area maybe to seek medical attention. Then we also have Makadara Law Court. So we work with Makadara Law Court during our GBV technical working group and even the court users committee, whereby we are able to identify this is a case which has really taken so much time for the survivor to access justice. So we are able to find out what are some of the challenges that this case is really taking time. How comes the process is delaying? So we also have children department that we are bringing on board because when now we are dealing with the issue of children, the children that have been violated, children who are not going to school. So we also bring them on board. So as I've said, we don't work in silos. We even have Wangu Kanja Foundation that is also implementing access to justice. So we are able to bring every partner that is working around access to justice, dealing with survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. And from that technical working group, we are able to pick what are some of the issues that really needs advocacy. The issues that we need to bring the policy makers on board so that we can even have the legal frameworks.
The reason why I asked the question is because when you talk about ensuring that the work you're doing actually has the impact you intended to have, then these partners have, well, the role that they play, apart from it being definitive, it gives an opportunity to measure it. But having heard what you've said, what the two of you have said, government intervention, perhaps specifically through the law enforcement agency known as the police service, is paramount. This issue of the curriculum that the police have and the inclusion of some of these studies that relates to what you do, how far has it gone and who have you been working with? Because if you have support from the police service, you will go a long way in achieving these goals. But so long as they treat it as, why don't you go back and sort it out? I mean, you bring the problem and they tell you, ni mambo ya nyumbani, go and resolve it. And you know very well that you've come there because it can't be resolved nyumbani. So how far has the push to have this included in the police curriculum gone?
We have the National GBV Technical Working Group, whereby even the police officers are involved. But you know, in Kenya, when it comes to development of formulation of policies and even implementation of policies, it becomes a challenge. That one we have to agree with.
Okay, so haijaenda mahali.
Bado iko, but we are really trying to push. We are really trying hard to push so that we can have such policies on place.
You see, police have been here and they've told us they have programs. In fact, they launched a program that would address
Polycare.
Polycare.
Yeah.
gender-based violence. It's at that level, at the highest level. They've launched it. It's running. The National Council on Administration of Justice has specific focus on gender-based violence. In fact, the Chief Justice was just launching a report the other day, right? How do you work with those as your organization and as Action Aid?
At the moment, we are keen to have the curriculum, the police training curriculum reviewed so that the police are equipped and are in a position to handle gender-based violence cases. And it's a work in progress. There is a lot of advocacy happening. And for now, I think where we are at the moment, we are still in that, establishing and creating awareness on the need for us to have the police have their way of training reviewed and updated, because it's not up to date.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the grassroots level, the chief is also very important.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll attest to that.
Yes.
How also do you work with the national government administration officers?
So during our community forums, we invite them. During our community forums, we also community forums and even the trainings, so they are able even to get the information. And once there's a case that maybe it has been handled, we normally call them kangaroo court, which also interferes with the justice for survivors of sexual and violence. And we realize that majority of the people who are fueling kangaroo court was the area chief and even the nyumba kumi, because you find that the perpetrator is somebody who has got money, and now he goes and pay that kesi wacha tu tumalizie tu hapa. So what we realized, we had a meeting with them and told them some of the side effects, because when this person has not accessed justice, definitely this person self-esteem will go down, and even in terms of productivity, that person will not be productive in the society. So we bring them on board.
You work with them?
Yeah, we work with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want to thank you very much for joining us today. Winfred Okumu, Deputy Executive Director at Africa Youth Trust, and from Action Aid Kenya, Majani Tyson, Learning and Impact Coordinator. Asanteni sana for all the work that you're doing. Keep doing it. Yeah, never give up. There are people who are actually benefiting from the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Keep it
Thank
here
you
for more
having us.
conversations. Karibuni tena. More conversations coming up in the next hour as we commemorate World Human Rights Day. We want to have a conversation from the human rights angle. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.